So it's a pleasure to be here. Obviously, there's lots of great companies in Midland that could be up here speaking. I was asked to give a little brief overview of what Weber is, what we do, what's unique about us. I will talk a little bit about talent management, what we handle. I also want to touch on a bit of the education and what Weber does for education. So thank you for having me here. A little bit about myself, though. Everyone talks about when they've come to the Midland area and when they moved here. I've been here 44 years. I was born in Midland. Third generation on a farm out in Tay Township. I went to elementary school in Tay. Yeah, Scott's all happy because I spent most of my life all in Tay. Went to elementary school in Victoria Harbour, St. Teresa's in Midland, and I have the privilege of still being here in Midland and working as not only a passionate business like Weber Manufacturing, but as a career myself as a chartered accountant, having the ability to use those features and my learning to help grow the business at Weber. So that was a little bit about myself. You want to go to the first slide, or next slide, Sharon? This presentation, when I first met the group, I said this presentation is usually 150 to 186 slides. I was told to shorten it. So I will try to go through this quickly. I only have about 20 slides. A little bit of history here on Weber, because not everyone knows about Weber. Weber is a world-class manufacturer of precision tools serving the automotive, aerospace, and home and building industries. We have 176 skilled and semi-skilled employees. 3 plants are located throughout Midland. We are controlled goods certified, so we can handle military and defense programs for the aerospace sector. And we also offer a full-service shop. We design tools, we do the master modeling, we do the mold build, which handles also CNC machining, and we'll do a full tryout for our customers. So we offer a plug-and-play option where when customers come to us from around the world, they don't have to worry about when those tools leave Weber, if they're in working order. 95% of our sales are export sales. For a small little company in Midland, we're selling tools throughout the US, all throughout Europe, the UK, into India and China. So we're very global on the market, have a well-established name and reputation. Next slide, please, Sharon. A little bit of history about Weber, and there's some people in this room that know the history very well. Fred Hacker, for sure, was one of them, good friend of Reinhard Weber. Weber came to Midland in 1967, of course started in 1962 in Windsor. Reinhard came here for the lifestyle. He came here because of the skilled trades and the German culture. He had other choices. Kitchener-Waterloo was one of them, but he chose Midland, and what a great choice he made. As we move through the history of Weber, some of the areas I want to highlight is in 1989 was a big change for Weber as a company, where we got into nickel tooling technologies. And Reinhard and a team of people were able to bring a whole new aspect of tooling to our business. Traditionally, it was a steel tool shop. But this really changed and reformed our company in '89 to start offering nickel shells to the automotive and aerospace sector. By 2000, we actually developed this process enough that we brought it into Midland. So Plant 2 in Midland on Crescent is an NBD facility. This NBD facility is nickel vapor deposition. And what's so unique about it? It's the only one in the world of this size commercially. There's lots of little plants similar to that, but they're all labs. Literally, they just take up a small room. We actually have a 26,000 square foot facility producing this nickel. I also want to highlight ownership changes. Reinhard sold in 2004 to a public equity company, and this is where a few things changed at Weber. In leading up to 2004, I'll say it was very consistent, and the opportunities we took were automotive and aerospace. It was the traditional tooling, keeping in mind that nickel was growing. In 2004, we went through that ownership change, and very quickly we realized the new owners who bought us had a totally different agenda and actually drove Weber Manufacturing basically into the ground, is an easy way of saying it. So in 2006 was a low point for us. We went into CCAA. That's like a Chapter 11 if you're from the States. And you could look at this as 2 ways. This was maybe a negative dot in our history or an opportunity for us to really start reinventing ourselves. And clearly, we reinvented ourselves. In 2006, I was with Weber since 2002. In 2006, I took control of the company to start this reinvention. And I took control as a CRO, and that's Chief Restructuring Officer. But what that does, it gives me the power to fire the CEO, fire the president, fire the board of directors, and start over. And that was the best thing that happened for us, because then we could regroup to our core group of employees at Weber, and that set us on the path of reinventing ourselves and really focusing on not only just the core business, but how we can take that core business and grow it into new diversified businesses. Let's go on to the next slide. One of the areas is the NBD. Obviously, that was built in 2000. But what it did, that NBD facility had lots of capacity. And we started looking at ways of what we can do. Can you just go back one? We started looking at ways at NBD of how we can expand our products and maybe somewhat move away from reliance on key customers in automotive. And this NBD facility gave us an opportunity to start looking at partners that have nothing to do with automotive, have nothing to do with aerospace, and we really started looking at the door industry, we looked at powder industry, and this set us on the right path. This next slide here, in 2007, 2008, we started looking at ourselves internally and saying, well, we've been in business basically for 50 years at this point, almost 50 years, but you know what? We're really a new company. We're coming out of the gates brand new in 2006. What do we want to be when we grow up? Well, clearly we want to be a leader in NVD technology. We want to diversify ourselves away from some of the automotive industry and the reliance on automotive, and thank God we did, because we know what happened in 2008, 2009 with the recession, almost a depression really for some of us. We wanted to keep investing in new technology, investing in employees, in training, in talent, and the footprint. We still like that small footprint in the town of Midland, but we think globally. We don't think small at all. Next slide, please. So what I want to touch on quickly is what we cover at Weber. And we got these 5 areas. I've been already mentioning automotive, aerospace, home and building products. We have a door line, a fiberglass door line, which we started up, and it's growing like crazy here in Midland, and also our coated powders. So what we'll do is talk a little bit about automotive interiors, what we do there. Next slide. We have a very unique process in texture replication. And what we can do with this NBD process, simply put, if you have a shape that you want to replicate on mass scale, we can take a master model, which we actually are capable of doing in-house. OEMs for years in the past would do all their mastering of their cars in their own facilities and then pass on the mastering to the tool makers to build it into production. We've taken that technology and brought it in-house at Weber. So we have skilled people that we've trained from Europe. Actually, we sent our employees over to Europe to learn the skill from BMW, from Mercedes, and Porsche, and bring that technology back to Midland. So now we are the master models makers for many automotive interior programs. And this is a special skill that we keep these employees current and gives Weber a legs up and a unique opportunity for OEMs to use our services, because again, we're providing the full service to them. Next slide. Once you do the master modeling, we also are very flexible on the type of tooling we provide to the industry. Some tool makers are very well in their injection on the fascia tools, or they have die casts for engine parts. We actually have the flexibility to build tools in many different styles and ways to meet the needs of automotive. So we'll do the normal slush process that's required. We'll do a PU, polyurethane spray process. We are into IMG tooling. And just knowing that we have the ability to build different types of tools for different industries, even though there is some common ground between the tools in the sense of the nickel. Next slide. These are just some interior programs we've done currently. Of course, BMW and Mercedes is our biggest customers, but we do a number of programs for Ford. We do programs for Chrysler. We do interior programs on the smaller scale for Ferrari and Porsche. Next slide. This is the exciting part that's really growing for us, is the exterior part of our business. Using the same technology, a nickel tool with no texture, we are now entering the market of luxury vehicles in carbon fiber. So again, we're taking a nickel tool and making carbon fiber parts for most of the luxury vehicles out there. You can go to the next slide. And what we're doing here is this nickel shape is used to make a carbon fiber part that's in an autoclave or outside of an autoclave. If you don't know autoclave, it doesn't matter. Just think of an autoclave as a big oven. But we've actually developed a process where we make tooling outside of an autoclave. And if you're in aerospace or automotive and you don't have to buy large ovens and heat those ovens, it actually saves them millions of dollars a year in energy consumption for each of these OEMs. So we've developed this process. Now somebody like Boeing, who is we're a preferred supplier to Boeing, they don't have to invest in an autoclave anymore. They can buy full assembly parts or tooling from us to make parts that just sit in a building with no large energy hoggers like an autoclave. In the case of Aston Martin, we do a lot of tooling for Aston Martin. This is actually a very unique one. You've probably seen the movie Casino Royale, James Bond movie. This is a CBS car. We actually not only built the tools, we actually built the prototypes for that movie. Aston Martin was in a rush to get cars into that movie, and they didn't have time to bring the tools in production. So those tools were put into production here in Midland, and those parts were shipped off so they can be built into cars for that movie. So that was exciting for us, and that car is still in production today using that same technology. On the other side, and we've done carbon fiber parts for many other vehicles, but on the other side of the business is our SMC. And this is interesting because it came up earlier with the hemp, and using hemp instead of maybe, in our case, glass fibers. We do a lot of Class A complex tooling. In this case, this is the Viper program that we did. And again, you can see a tool design where we'll build a full steel working model and then put that in production. One thing we do a lot of is SMC parts, mostly for BMW, I have to admit. But in this case, we did Viper, we do Rolls-Royce, and we'll do some parts for Jaguar. Another area that's really growing for us and taking off for a number of reasons. First, we're specializing in it more in aerospace, but we also have that controlled goods certified program, so that gives us an opportunity to quote on defense and military programs that's really broadening our abilities and getting us out there on the global scale. Next slide. It's using the same technology. So we took our automotive technology where we'll build a nickel tool and put it into a steel frame and attach heating and cooling lines to the back to get away from automotive. The difference with aerospace versus automotive is the requirements. Clearly, aerospace requirements are much higher than an automotive requirement when you're building a tool and then eventually a part. But that's helped Weber build ourselves up to a much higher level and provide basically world-class tooling to all industries, not just to aerospace. The next section here, the sinks. The sinks is an interesting business in the sense of the market size Weber controls. Weber actually has over 90% of the sink business in this world today. Now, these are not sinks we build for your home. These are tools to make sinks. So if you have either the acrylic-filled granite material or a DuPont-style material, these are your under-the-counter mounted sinks or composite sinks. We service 90% of those people around the world for those sinks because nickel is so unique for the properties of processing that. So Weber has a leg up and an advantage, and here again, we're doing it all in Midland. Next slide. This is near and dear to me. Master Grain was a concept we came up with in 2008. We launched our first fiberglass doors in late 2008. Since then, we actually started in Mexico. I hate to say that, but we started in Mexico because we were just a new startup company. We needed some help in molding and door assembly. And within a few years, we realized the quality of service we were getting, the trouble at logistics boarding, crossing the border between Mexico and into the US was becoming a real pain. We actually brought that entire business back to Midland, and now we employ 34 new employees because of that. And I see this business, Master Grain alone, growing larger than Weber is today. And I see that happening in the next 5, 6 years, not a problem. Our doors right now are sold all throughout North America as a premium fiberglass door. And it's just really nice to see a premium product like this. And I know you can't really see it by the pictures, but because of our nickel technology, we replicate wood right to the atom. So if you have a wood door and we take a replica of that door, we can mass produce it, and it looks and feels and stains like real wood. You can't tell the difference. So we're really competing at the wood door level with more of a medium market price point. Next slide. That's just some of the capital investment we made down at Plant 3. We've invested over $1 million into equipment down at Plant 3, which is the Darrell Building. We have 26,000 square feet down there. And we've invested over $6 million in tooling to make many different door designs and frame components. The last one, which is not as sexy as the doors, I find, but you have to talk about it, is actually an interesting one also in its own way. It just shows our diversification. Here we're a tool company as our core. Now all of a sudden we're in the doors, and now we're into coated products, and in this case, graphite coated in nickel. If you look at them individually, you don't even see a connection, but when you get down to the core of it, it's our NBD process. That nickel vapor deposition has so many opportunities for Weber for us to grow into different markets, and something like this that is really excess capacity of NBD being used to coat powders has just created a $2.5 to $3 million business for us literally overnight. We did this in less than a year and a half. This was always a goal that Reinhardt wanted. We just couldn't figure it out at the time. And our management team put our heads together, and we figured out how to do it, and now it's just taking off. So it's not a huge market, but it's a nice niche product that actually gives us very good margins. Next slide. This is the important one, and this is what we want to talk about on talent management. You've heard me speak today, or say a little bit, about education and the role that the schools have to play, the colleges, universities, but we're taking it a little deeper. I'm running an initiative to really hit at the high school level through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. And for any business in here that wants to learn about it, there are people out there that train you, or my door is always open. But what's happening at the high school level, the guidance counselors or the teachers are not providing all the options to the students. And we're really lacking in skilled trades. And I don't think there's a business in here that's in manufacturing that says, no, we're covered, skilled trades is not an issue. We all have an issue with skilled trades. And if we don't start working and developing those skilled trades better, we will lose our manufacturing abilities in Ontario, and they'll go overseas or down to Mexico or somewhere, maybe throughout India. What I'm pointing out here with these people, though, is since 2006, again, during the CCAA process, when you're in a point of almost crisis, you can look at it as negative, but the opportunity is when you have risk, people are more apt to make changes and make them quickly. And that's what happened. People realized we had to make a change. They all came together, the core group of staff, and at the time there's 120 of us. And we started reinventing everything about Weber, how we do it, how we go to market. And what we started doing also is really focusing on training our employees better, actually, in-house and by third party. And this goes at all levels. I'm not just talking skilled trades here. We do a lot of cross-training in our plant, so a machinist will learn how to do maybe a mold making at one point. We have mold makers who've moved into design, and we really encourage and promote promotion within. In fact, there's a few people, I mean, it may be hard to see, but there's a few people up there that have been with Weber over 30 years, and they actually started in the maintenance department, they started in the mold making department, they started as a machinist, and now they actually lead the divisions that I just talked about. One individual that started in maintenance got his technical degree in engineering, and now he runs our fiberglass door business. A machinist runs our automotive interior business, and a mold maker runs our automotive exterior business. And this is all promoting within. We don't, sometimes you have to go out and hire people, but we really encourage promotion within and training. And again, at all levels, even at the senior management level, we spend a fair amount of money every year, annually, to go out to different courses to maybe experience what others are doing, and then we bring that back and try to feed that through Weber as much as possible. I was talking to an individual at lunch, and I wrote a lot of notes down today when I was sitting at this table. There's so much stuff that's been said, but one of the comments that was on a slide up here is doubled the employment in Midland. And we're at 3,600 approximately in manufacturing. To do that, we really need to start looking at our skilled trades and our semi-skilled labor force, because you will not be able to double our employment with what you got today. So that has to be a proactive approach, and I really truly believe industry has to lead that. We can't wait for the school system to do that. The schools are a very important part, but they will follow what industry tells them to do. So I encourage industry to start telling the schools what you want and not wait for the school to develop it. One other thing we really encourage at Weber that I want to highlight with the people again is giving them the freedom to invent things. I don't know how it works in all companies, but you may have heard the Google story. At Google, they're giving 20% of their workday to inventing something. Now that means on a Friday or a Monday, they don't have to work, they actually sit there and invent. We don't give 20% at Weber, but what we do give is the opportunity to our employees to try something new. We do not discourage them from trying something. Even if it fails, as you know, you learn from your failures, and sometimes you learn something new. And we have an interesting story. Actually, there's two, but I'll keep it to one because of time. We have one of our employees, a new machinist that started with us 3 years ago, and he was kind of slow to start. He was a little afraid. He was working around experienced machinists. But what we did recently is we asked him, since he's new to it, what would you do different? Like, this is starting fresh. What would you do? And we gave him an opportunity. We gave him a 1 week. He didn't have to worry about his job, and he started playing with ideas. And what happened, what came out of it was, we've been traditionally doing something that takes about 6 hours. It's called square up and dimensional. You put a block on the machine, you square up, you dimensional it, you put your holes in for your eye bolts. Usually a 5 to 6 hour job on a regular size block. He did it in 2 hours. So you say, how did he do it in 2 hours? Well, because he didn't know the traditional way of doing it, he thought of it totally different. So we encourage stuff like that. And so now we're taking young people at Weber, even at the high school level, and saying, because they don't know anything about the job, how would they do the job? And you realize from your employees, you can really improve and do things better. So we encourage that quite a bit. The one other area I want to just touch on is basically the reinventing of ourselves can never stop. I think I have a little saying up there, if we keep doing what we've done in the past, we won't be here tomorrow. That's kind of an unwritten motto for us. We are always trying to improve ourselves. I mean, continuous improvement's natural, but we're trying to go beyond continuous improvement. Personal improvement, improvement for the company as a whole, improvement within departments. And even if we give the employees some training, if they can't apply it directly to Weber, but it applies to their personal life, fine. It benefits somebody, and we're all for it, so we support that. So that's kind of a brief overview of Weber and what we do, and thank you very much.